Sam, welcome to Realistic Happiness Podcast.
Daisy, thank you for having me.
You travelled all the way from the UK to be here today.
I did indeed, and a long journey from where I've come from earlier today as well, yeah. But yeah, I've experienced every form of public transport that the Netherlands has to offer.
And if you're watching and not listening to the episode at the moment, you can see we're in a different space. We're trying something new. For Sam, especially. I'm joking. No, we're trying something new and we'll revert back to the original setup in the next episode. It's just temporary. But Sam, if I'm tuning into the episode today, what can I expect to learn from you today?
I would like to think that you would leave the episode feeling less stressed, overwhelmed about all things money, and if any of the listeners are entrepreneurs like yourself, Daisy, kudos to you, by the way. Just from day one to day whenever, really, whatever point you are in your business, just feel less stressed, have more control, have more clarity on what the future looks like.
I actually have a quote from you here, Sam, which says, people don't get taught this stuff in school. It's not glamorous, but understanding your money is what gives you real options. So what made you so passionate about teaching this? Because obviously we don't get taught at school, so there's a lack. But why did you feel inclined to do it?
Very much for that reason. I think I have grown up in an environment where I haven't been taught those things. So either from the school system or from just growing up. Both of my parents have never owned their own businesses. Both of them are employed. And I think it's just learning from doing. No one taught me how to get a mortgage. I didn't know how much I needed to earn to get that mortgage, what that process even looks like. I've made a lot of mistakes and you learn from those mistakes as well. So I'd love to be in a position where I can educate people at earlier stages in their life so they don't make the same mistakes I did.
Yeah, I relate.
Yeah.
I'm sat there like, yep, still don't know what I have to do to get a mortgage, or like even getting a credit card and stuff was really weird. Such a weird experience for me, like leaving college and like thinking, oh my God, shit, I'm going to apply. Is this a loan? Like how bad is this for my credit score, etc. So before we dive into the topics, can you give us a brief background of what you do? Sure. And then we can dive straight in so people understand like your educational background and what you do for work.
So I didn't go to uni for one.
High five.
I
didn't go
really?
either.
Yes, let's go. So I think in the industry in which I work in, there's multiple routes. A lot of people think to be an accountant you have to go to university. Not always the way. This is another route. I studied a qualification called AAT. And then from there, I did my chartered exam. So you can go either the uni route and you get a certain amount of exemptions, and then you do ACCA or ACA, typically with the route I've taken, or you can do AAT, get different exemptions, and then you can fall on the same path. So my route was kind of, rather than spend the time at uni, I was in employment, gaining experience and kind of studying at the same time, which I thought was pretty cool. My first job was actually in a pharmacy, which is like not in finance at all. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. Straight out of A-levels, I did biology, chemistry, physics and Spanish just because I love the language. So pretty random subjects compared to what I do now. Someone recommended accounting to me because I had no idea what to do. It was a free course because of my age at the time. And I just went down that route. So I started at a pharmacy. And then worked at a few different places as an internal accountant. So a company and being an accountant for that company as opposed to doing compliance work, tax advice for multiple companies like a practice. Found that through my learning, I think the skills that you learn is more geared towards working at a practice and advising like businesses from loads of different sectors. So I wanted to work in that field. Joined a grad scheme, even though I wasn't a grad. They let me just apply, and I was like, yes, let's go. And then, just from being in the industry, working with different businesses, I knew I wanted to work with smaller businesses, I think. So I joined a smaller practice. The place that I started at their client base were mainly small businesses. They didn't have the luxury of having different departments. So you just get thrown into it. You have to learn how to do things just from finding out for yourself. As I say, you don't have the luxury of having different specialists. I now work for a firm called Accounts and Legal, so I'm on the senior leadership team there. And I believe we are the only firm in the country that have accountants and sort of lawyers in the same business. So we like to be like a one-stop shop is how we're positioning ourselves. So your accountant and your lawyer are in the same room is that idea behind it. Like, there's nothing more frustrating when people aren't on the same page.
And I guess whilst being surrounded in this environment where there is law and accounting and finance, you felt like whilst you were talking to people that there was a lack of information or a lack of knowledge from businesses, from individuals, right? And this is where you teaching about financial literature came in, right?
So there are, I think people are having the confidence now to do something for themselves, like that thing that they're interested in, that they're learning that it's actually more accessible than they thought. And people are having the balls to just go for it. And I think from being exposed to more of those people, more startup businesses, you learn all the things that they don't know, and you think, I just wish people knew this. So being able to help more people have the confidence to do something for themselves, or even just have a better understanding of money, even if they're in employment, how to budget better, how to save for the future, maybe save to have the money behind them to be able to do that thing that they want to do for themselves. A lot of people don't know where to start. So I think, being able to give people that clarity, take that stress from their shoulders, it's super important to me. It's quite, very meaningful.
Yeah. So let's start from the very foundation then for someone who's, let's think of an audience member, or I'll just put myself in that position where I feel really behind with money. Like I have some debt, I have no savings, I have no budget. So what would the realistic first step be for someone like me?
I think a budget, a lot of people, because they don't have that clarity on where to start, it's almost impossible to see what that first step is. I think a budget tells you what that first step is. And it's like, okay, where am I at right now? Let's just write it all down. So what's the money that comes into my bank every month?
And how would you do that? Like on Excel, on pen and paper?
Probably
like
on
anything?
Excel or on a pen and paper. To be honest, it can be as easy as that. If you're not, if you don't use Excel on a day-to-day, or that's not comfortable, just get a pen and paper out and just be like, right at the top, what comes into my bank every month? What is, if you're in employment, what's my salary? Take home pay. Boom. And then what are the things that come out of my bank every month? Necessities, rent, insurance, so for car or home, food, stuff like that. Then after your essentials, you'll have a figure. So salary minus essentials equals X. And then think about the things that are not essential. So more social stuff, but obviously it's still essential, but now we're thinking about it. So we've covered our bare needs. Now it's like, okay, let's put some figures in and be realistic with it. Like, how much do I need to live off socially? Like, what hobbies do you have? Where do you need to travel to? How many times do you go out for food with friends? Stuff like that. Bang that in. After that, you'll then be left with a figure that is ultimately what you think you're going to have left over. And I think once you know that figure, that in theory should be a figure that you should be able to save. But now that you know that figure, get rid of that as soon as you get paid. As soon as you get paid, make that the first thing that you do.
That exact figure.
Just
put it in the savings.
Just put it in savings.
Oh, that's
or
interesting.
Like a round amount. So make it be the first thing you do as soon as you get paid, rather than what you have left at the end of the month. You've worked out what you have left at the end of the month. But if you have that mindset of getting to the end of the month and hoping to still save that same amount, you just won't. You just won't. I think holding yourself accountable and just having that figure in mind and getting rid of it as soon as you get paid, it's almost like it is a way of keeping yourself accountable, I think, and trying to stick to the social figure that you put in and stuff like that. And actually, I think you learn quite a lot about yourself, because that social spend that you put aside, that was an estimate. You learn how much you actually spend, and then you can flex month on month. you know then whether you've got to either increase your earnings to be able to save what you actually want to save. I think you get used to saving that amount for a few months, but then maybe your social spend increases. It really highlights the actions that you need to take, I think. So it's either like it gives you that thought process to either, I need to earn more money. How do I do that? Maybe you have a negotiation with your employer, or how can I cut costs? So if you don't want to reduce your social spend, it then really forces you to think about the stuff that comes out every month, right?
Yeah.
So your phone bill, can I reduce that? I'm spending so much on fuel every month. Is there a way I can kind of reduce that? It forces you to think about things that happen on a day-to-day basis to be able to ultimately achieve how much you want to save each month.
Yeah. And I've done this exercise before, actually, Sam. And
yeah, how did that go?
Not great.
No.
Because I think with the social kind of aspect, but also I have cats, for example, if people have pets, it's
Sure.
so you really want to have a buffer in case you need to take them to the vets or something happens to them, right? So even though like logically I know what you're saying, for me it's like that safety net that's like, what if something happens to my cat, or what if I need to fix something and I need to pay for it, or you know what I mean? Also, like if you have a car, for example, like you always want to have a buffer kind of thing at the end of the month, like, oh, what if I have a breakdown? Or
these savings can be that buffer ultimately. So I think the first level of savings for me is having 3 to 6 months of what your regular outgoings are put aside, and that is your buffer. And I think if you have that set up, it unlocks so much like short-term freedom, I think, and it does take a lot of stress off your shoulders. So if you have that 3 to 6 months saved up, before we even touch investing or anything like that, make sure you've got this 3 to 6 months aside, because then, as you say, that buffer, well, that is your buffer. That's why you've done that, or a holiday or something like that, and you don't feel as though it's, you know, you're breaking the bank in that month that you get paid. I've seen a few stats recently, and 1 in 3 adults live paycheck to paycheck, but that as a thing is mad, and I think that just comes from people having a lack of clarity as to where to start.
But also, I can also think of like some of my friends that they don't get as much salary, like, so they don't have the luxury of like sometimes even like doing social things or like splurging or holidays and stuff. Like they really live paycheck by paycheck because it's so tight.
Okay.
You know, so then how do you navigate that situation if you can't get a promotion, if you're kind of stuck in that job, you know, how can you even navigate?
I guess to some degree, if you can't, I'd be thinking to cut costs. But if you then can't cut costs because like rent is so expensive, then there are ways to earn more money. I think you've just got to be creative to some degree. There's so many online courses and stuff you can do now, and I think so much is out there. I don't think we've ever lived in a time where it's more accessible to do something for yourself. Doing something for yourself doesn't have to be this grand thing where you've handed your notice in and you started your own business. There's so much information that's out there, and I think if you just spend a bit of time learning a new skill, or thinking about what you're really good at and honing in on that, and thinking, you know, what kind of person would be interested in the skill I have. I think there are loads of ways where you can increase your earnings through maybe like a bit of a side hustle. I think it's quite easy to start something and earn, to start with maybe an extra few £100s a month for not too much effort, actually. I think there's so much out there. So if you don't think you can increase your earnings through salary, or have that conversation with your employer, perhaps have a look at doing something for yourself, because I think you'd be surprised by how much content there is out there and how much help there is out there, actually, if you just search for it.
We're not like condoning OnlyFans.
By
the way, we're not telling you to start selling like foot pics and stuff like that. No, it's more, I understand, because the typical advice is like, just quit your job and start your own thing. And I think that's such harmful advice as well.
There's this big like, I always call it like bro culture. Just like hustle, grind, like leave your 9 to 5, like that's not good enough kind of thing. And it goes into, just how we compare ourselves to others. And I don't have Instagram for that very reason. I think it's a good platform, right? But I think the algorithm is actually like so toxic. I think it really can be toxic.
Yeah.
And you can find yourself in a world where you are just comparing yourselves to others and people that are displaying these things as well. Like it's not the full picture all the time. People want you to see this the perfect side to their world, but a picture doesn't say everything, does it? And it can make you feel like you're not doing enough in life and stuff like that. So yeah, I think everyone should focus on themselves a little bit more, and it's not that deep. Everyone's on their own journey. Yeah.
Yeah. And also another quote I'm pulling up that
Let's
you
go.
said is most founders don't think about the long term, and that's why they can't sell or scale. And when you said that, I was like,
Yeah.
oh shit, because I did the same thing when I left my job and I started my business.
Yeah.
It was like, yeah, the brand deals and
Yeah.
the podcast and this, like the immediate things. And then now, because I have an investor, I'm forced to think about the future. And I was like, oh fuck, there's a future.
Yeah, you've got that
so
external
when you
pressure,
said
I
that,
suppose.
yeah, it was really interesting.
So I think if we go back to someone handing the notice in and starting their business, I think it's very easy to treat yourself as an employee still and think of the money coming into the bank as short term. That's what I can take out. A lot of people start their own business to, I think, either increase their earning potential. So it can be super exciting from the off because you might just see money coming in. But it's important to think about the money that's got to go out as well. When you are in employment and you have your taxes sorted for you and everything like that, and you get paid once a month and you get used to that, it's so easy to think about the tax obligations that you might have down the line that you all of a sudden need to train yourself to think about. If I think about a business in the UK, when you get paid, you've got maybe VAT to think about if you're VAT registered or registered for sales tax. You've then got your corporation tax to think about. You've then got your personal tax to think about on the money that you take out of your company. And these are all due at different times in the year. So it's very easy to say money in the bank, that's what I can take. But in reality, like no. And that's why you need to budget. But going back to what I said about the future, I think people overestimate what they can do in 1 year. But I think they significantly underestimate what they can do in 5. So thinking about what life after work looks like, that could be a shorter horizon than maybe you think if you have the right plan in place.
Yeah, that's interesting. So we underestimate what we can do in 5 and overestimate what we can do in 1.
It can be very exciting, hey, can't it? And you're just like, yes, I'm going to do this and in 1 year, but
scale and go to the moon and
yeah. And then that's when the sort of vanity metrics come in, I think. But I think having a thought on the future, life after work, what does that look like? How do I want to spend my time? Some people, they find their work really purposeful, and that's awesome because a lot of people don't find that. So you might have your business and you might absolutely love what you do on a day-to-day basis, but if you started your business to have financial freedom, and I think what I mean by financial freedom, being able to trade your time for what you want and not necessarily for money. Well, unless you have a plan as to how you're going to escape that, you as maybe a solo entrepreneur, well, you might as well be an employee if you have no plan, because you're still getting paid every month the same as an employee, right? What does that look like afterwards? So build yourself something that's maybe sellable, and then that's when you can really achieve financial freedom, I think, unless you have this well-oiled cog underneath you and you hire the right people, and people don't think about that, I don't think.
No, they don't. And you're so right. I know so many people that have like started businesses or like hopped on like bandwagons of like businesses that like, like drop shipping and shit like that, like things that like you've tried it as well.
One of the many mistakes I made.
Exactly. And, or I don't know, just like consultancies or something like this. And I don't know. And this podcast and everything, like what you touched on as well, I'm all about when you do something that you love and you're passionate about, like the money will follow because it feels so genuine and so real to you, and you just naturally put so much time and like passion into it because you enjoy it so much. But I know so many people that do yeah, they're essentially like employees again, because they are just chasing and chasing and chasing and just doing something that they hate every single day just because
Yeah.
it pays a lot of money. And personally, I don't know, this has taken a different route. We'll go back to financial literacy.
Super
But
interesting,
personally, I
yeah.
think I'd prefer like my path, even though it's a bit slower.
Yeah.
I just think I'm already seeing the reaps of like, yeah, the return on investment already, where it's like, yeah, I'm doing things that I enjoy and I'm being paid well for
I was
it.
about to ask you, what would you say your path was compared to that? But you've just said,
Yeah,
things you enjoy and then seeing what comes off
exactly.
the back of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, even as a solopreneur, I do, and I'm sure other people listening as well who are in the same boat, I do get tempting opportunities,
Yeah.
to like, oh, come back to corporate and do this, or oh, do a freelance assignment here, or oh, I've got a project here,
Mm.
which pays, like you see the money and you're like,
Mm.
okay,
Yeah.
I could do that. But then you measure it against what you're already doing
Yeah.
and like how much you're earning already, and your time, how you're investing it. And I think people also need to be aware of not just where the money is and chase it, but
Yeah.
also the satisfaction part of it as well. Like, does
It's
it align with
huge.
what you're doing?
Yeah. That purpose piece, because like it's massive, and it, I've rocked my head with it over the last like couple of months, to be honest. Just me personally thinking about what my purpose is,
Hmm.
and I think I have been driven by things that aren't to do with me, and I've used that as my purpose in the past. Like my drive has been around being in a position where I can help family members, rather than thinking like, how do I actually get enjoyment out of what I do. And I kind of, my purpose, as I think of it, is like, I get so much gratification from helping people.
Hmm.
So I think if I can directly help someone have, maybe it sounds a bit dramatic, but a better life, or unlock years in their life, like buy them time back, that to me is amazing. Yeah. Like, maybe helping someone realize that they can maybe escape what they're doing
Hmm.
5-10 years quicker than what they first thought. I think it's quite powerful, really. I think life's way shorter than what we think it is.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's huge.
Yeah, of course. And you educating people, especially founders, individuals as well, coming on podcasts like this to just
Yeah.
like illuminate on the topic and explain is so, so important. I think you are living your purpose and also using the skills that you already have as well, right?
Yeah. Yeah. This is more of what I want to do. I think I just want to get out there. I've got in touch with a few charity organisations and trying to get in there with schools as well. Struggling a bit on the school side, like I think people are still maybe not too receptive to it, but maybe as soon as you get that first one to go, yeah, you know what, come on in, maybe you got a bit of a showcase there for other schools maybe to be open to it.
Yeah.
I think there's maybe more demand for it now than there ever has been, so hopefully people keep shouting up for the need for it, and then people kind of see the light and go, yeah, this is the way forward, and people need to be educated on stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And on the topic of founders again, then,
Yeah.
was there a like, is there something that they often get wrong about managing money? I know we've covered a few things, but was there any other specific things that you're seeing like that's recurring and it keeps happening like a pattern?
Very much what I alluded to before in terms of not doing a forecast and thinking about the tax obligations and just treating the money in the bank as that's what they can take out. A good example could be if you earned 10k a month, you get 10k physically into your bank, but then I'll use UK tax rates as an example. 19% of that you got to pay out in corporation tax in maybe a year's time. Easy to forget about, a year's time. So that's 1,900 out the window, gone. So now you're left with 8,100. Right, okay. Now I've got to draw that from my business. Okay, what does that mean? Right, I'll have to pay personal tax on that. Okay, when have I got to pay that? A different point to when you pay corp tax, by the way. So then all of a sudden, you got 10k in your bank. At one point you were looking at £10,000, but in reality, so that you don't end up in trouble and in a position where you haven't got the money in the bank to meet your tax obligations, you're now left with around 7, perhaps. So it's important to just bear that in mind. and plan ahead and do a forecast and just, not treat the money in the bank as that's yours to take out. I think a lot of people go wrong in that and just end up in trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. And also something I've noticed as well, now having an investor, etc., is people got really excited for me.
Yeah.
Because they just heard how much I asked. And they're like, oh my God. And I think they automatically think that's my money. When it's actually like, I had to learn that I have to create a separate entity, like a business. And then the business is almost like it's a person. Right. And then they have the money, and then I have to pay people, and I have to invest in this and advertising and blah, blah, blah. And then I get my cut out of that. It's not like I get the 100K
It's a
and
good way to put it.
I'm rich already. So that was really interesting to like maneuver myself as well, like talking to investor and stuff. But I just noticed talking to my friends and a family, they were just so they're like, whoa, like almost like I just won the lottery. And I was like, I don't keep that. It goes towards my business.
I guess it gives you that rocket fuel though. Hey, it's pretty exciting. But yeah, you made a very good point there in terms of another thing that people struggle to grasp as a solopreneur is that concept that it is a completely separate legal entity to yourself, dependent on how you set up, sure. But if you set up a limited company, it's literally a separate legal entity to you. And you are effectively an employee of that business. So if you want to build this great brand and something that's sellable and something that's going to scale, you need to treat it as such. Yeah, I try to get clients to think, what do you need to take out every month to, pay the bills and just enjoy your life? Okay, try and decide what that amount is, and why don't you have a go at just paying yourself that every month and see how it goes, see the effect on the business, hopefully see the money in your business bank account go up. Don't flex what you pay yourself straight away just because the money in the bank's going up, which is very easy to do.
Yeah.
If you are happy with what you're taking out and the money in the bank's going up, reinvest it back into your business and you'll get where you want to be way quicker. It's that like delayed gratification, I suppose. That's thrown around quite a lot as a concept. Invest it back into advertising. Think about how you could, where are you getting your clients from at the minute? Where are you not? Okay, well that's pretty interesting. Like, let's invest in where you're not getting clients from. And
oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, it goes into a 5-year plan. We'll go into it, but one thing I like to look at with clients is, how do you get new business at the minute? And they might be like, they come from a website. Like, my website's pretty good. We just get inbound leads, and that's amazing. Like, if your main way of getting business is through inbound leads, but what about word of mouth? Like, do you ask for referrals from your clients? Do they ever refer anyone to you? If not, why not? Have you asked anyone to refer someone to you? I think good people know good people, so that's one way. Do you put yourself out there at all? Do you like create content yourself? Do you do any outbound? If not, why not? Like, just if you don't have the time to, well, how are you spending your time at the minute? Well, like, what are you doing? Is there any way you can offload some of that? It doesn't maybe need to be a huge outlay in cost, but I imagine there's a bunch of admin stuff you're doing that maybe you don't need to do. Let's take that hat off and let's focus more, again, like a very cliche term, but more on the business, not in the business. Yeah.
That's so good. I was kind of envisioning, because if you carry on in this loop, imagine, where it's like, oh, this is working, like I just funnel here and I make money and I pay myself, and you're stuck in this loop where actually you could be making content and getting inbounds, and you could be advertising more so you get referrals, etc., or you could be going to more networking events, so you've got all of these other circles of even more like profitability and even more salary you can pay yourself, but you're avoiding it because you're in this comfort loop. That's really interesting.
Or you're just very hyper focused on the chargeable stuff, and people that have had the courage to do something for themselves, normally it's because they're very good at what they do. So that product that they sell or that service that they offer, they're really good at selling that product or providing that service. So all of a sudden you've got to wear, if you want to have a really successful business, you've got to wear all these different hats that people aren't used to wearing. So again, going back to the financial education, it's almost like a whole different form of education. You've got financial education thrown in there, but all of a sudden you're a recruiter, you're a marketing person, and if you're just a solopreneur, how do you teach yourself all this stuff? Like it's hard. So I think when you start a business and you're in the thick of it, it's very easy to prioritize the stuff that's going to make the money rather than thinking about make the money in the short term, what's going to add the value in the long term. And people get distracted, I think.
Yeah, and you've also spoken about before designing a business that's sellable, which is, I want to know, everyone wants to know who's listening as well. Why should every solo founder or freelancer be thinking about that now instead of like thinking about this instant gratification?
Going back to how you want to spend the rest of your life, I think, realizing that could be a lot, or not as far in the future as you think if you have the right plan. And I think there's so much you can do in 5 years. I do a lot of 5-year planning with clients and just helping them paint a clear picture as to where they're at now, thinking about what products or services you offer now, what's more out of all them, what's more profitable out of them. Okay, do you spend more of your focus on that one product that's more profitable, or do you spend it, like, what percentage of your time is spent on what services? That's really cool to talk about. Who are your customers? What target market come to you at the minute? Okay, what type of customer doesn't come to you at the minute? Can you position yourself in a way that actually you're attracting a target market that is completely locked at the moment? That's pretty important. Who are your competitors? Is there anyone out there that's doing what you're doing? Okay, well, how are you different to them? What's your differentiating factor compared to Joe Bloggs down the road who's doing the same thing as you? Are you cheaper? Do you do it better? Do you have better marketing? I don't know, but just having all these conversations then helps you put a plan together. If you don't have a differentiating factor to your competitors, well, it might prompt the need to put a bit of a marketing plan together. I like to ask people, if you were to take on 30% more work now, how would that feel? And people's answers are quite interesting. Some people are like, I wouldn't be able to do that. Like, I wouldn't be able to cope. So it's like, okay, again, how are you spending your time now? So where could you alleviate time so that you could cope with the 30% extra work? And it kind of trains people into thinking that they don't have to be their business, but they can really work on it. People are too precious, I think. They don't want to let go on certain things. But as soon as you do a 5-year plan perhaps with someone, and you see maybe what your business could look like, the money you could have, the value that business might have, I think people start thinking, oh yeah, actually that sounds pretty cool. Maybe I should drop a few of these hats all of a sudden, because with that end goal in mind, I want a bit of that.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to picture as well, like 5 years, even like my business, for example, it's really difficult. Can people do this exercise themselves?
I think it's good to have a few mentors or bounce ideas off people. Like, it's you can have a starting point. I think if you've been going 1 or 2 years, you've at least got some data to start with. You've got some financial performance to work off. So I think if you just export that data from wherever it's stored and have a look at where are you now, it allows you to then think, how could this business be improved? And if you know that you can improve your margins by a little bit, you can sort of forecast your increase in sales. If you know you're not targeting a certain market at the minute, okay, well, what's that worth to the business? And you start plugging scenarios in. So this 5-year plan, it's all like it's a lot of scenarios. So it's maybe hard to do it yourself. But I think if you speak to someone that's gonna challenge you on certain things, ask the right questions and just bounce ideas off each other, you can have a good stab at it. But I think it's good to get advice from people who have maybe done one already, or just someone who's going to challenge your way of thinking and just maybe unlock like a different way of thinking. Something that I speak about with clients that are a little bit dubious to doing a 5-year plan is talking around the whole sale situation. The data's out there to see how much business is sold for in a certain industry and go in even a bit more specific. So a software company that is in the sports industry, you can go that granular with it and the data's there. So what you can kind of do is you can reverse engineer it and go, well, that business sold for X amount of million or hundreds of thousands. You can work it back to work out how much profit they were making year on year. So it gives you like a comparison. So what I like to do with clients is maybe pick 10 businesses that I've sold in the past, look at various sizes, they've sold for various amounts, but you add up all the amounts that they've sold for, you add up all of the profit that those businesses were making in the year of sale, and you eventually come to a multiple. And this is something called like an enterprise value. So as soon as you work out what a multiple is for maybe the client that you're speaking to, or someone who's thinking of doing a 5-year plan, that's actually stuff that's happened in the past. So you apply that to, well, how much profit am I making year on year now? Okay, how much profit would I maybe need to make for someone to be interested in buying my business? But you've got a multiple based on history that's happened, and sometimes it's pretty exciting, you know. There's a lot of there's some real appetite for different businesses in different sectors, and as soon as you see like a potential sale figure, it's like, okay,
it almost feels unrealistic.
Yeah.
Like, is that really going to happen?
I'm going to be worth that much, or this thing that I built from scratch could be worth that. Like, come on then, let's go.
And what about AI and how the world is changing almost every single day? Because I think it's just really tricky to foresee a 5-year plan, especially with there's like political things happening, wars happening. AI is like taking over jobs, creating new jobs, automating things. It can also help us with a 5-year plan as well. Probably
ChatGPT will make you one, probably.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do you counter that? If I was one of your clients and I wanted to do a 5-year plan, but I'm kind of concerned, dubious about the potential hiccups along the way.
It's difficult to foresee some things, like depending on the industry. Like I don't have experience of loads of different industries, so I don't work in it, but I can relate to the industry I'm in and how AI is impacting that for the future. I think as an accountant, like there's so much compliance work and just tick boxing sort of exercises that will be automated in the future. So you've almost got to flex your offering a little bit. I think the relationship side of business will never go away. So the sort of interpersonal interactions, will never disappear. So you've just got to take a step back, I think, and think of like, if you are providing a service, like such as myself, what are the low risk parts of what you provide, or the admin sort of sides to your job? That's probably going to be impacted by AI. So how can you flex your business to sort of counteract that kind of stuff? Anything relationship driven is not going to go away. It's a tough question, you know.
That's a really difficult one at you.
Really, really stumped. Yeah.
No, I mean, we just have to predict as much as possible, and not let ego come in the way as well of, you know, we have to let certain things go if they just don't go our way, and we have to just learn to pivot and grow, right? Instead of groveling and, it didn't work out this way. You said it would work out this way.
It's as you say, it's you have to try and foresee some things, but just AI is a bit of a mad one, you know. Like
it's unpredictable.
It's so unpredictable. I think it's only recently become a bit of a buzzword. Obviously it's been in use for years. I myself have only just started using it because people are talking about it, and then you're like, how can I use this to make my day-to-day easier? And all of a sudden you're like, this is pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, so how much is this going to develop in the next 12 months? Now everyone's talking about it and using it. It's like impossible to know unless you're in the thick of it, or you're a software developer, or it's so hard to know. So you can have a 5-year plan based on the incremental improvements you can make to your business and where you think you're not targeting. But maybe you've got to see AI as a bit of a positive, and maybe it could be a bit of rocket fuel to maybe make that horizon even shorter. Yeah, perhaps that hiring budget that you forecasted in a year's time, maybe part of that isn't recruiting someone. Maybe in the future it's going to be like, how can I use AI to to actually save me that hiring spend, and maybe it's a £10 subscription compared to paying someone £3,000 a month or something like that. It's a wild world.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can't remember the name of the company. There's I think they're in the States, and they've created these AI assistants where they've got different names. Have you seen that? I can't remember the names that they've called them, but that's out there.
They
now,
operate whole businesses.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just insane.
That's wild though. It's mind blowing.
They're going to be your colleagues soon.
Yeah, quite possibly. Yeah. The Lindas or whatever they're called. Yeah. Just mind blowing.
I want to keep talking about like the 5-year plan, because part of that is the chase, right? Chasing for power, chasing for more revenue, chasing for more followers, chasing for more success, right?
Yeah.
With that comes ego again. So how do you chase financial goals without putting a lot of ego in? Because of course you need to strive towards things, but I think sometimes we chase the wrong things in this, 1-year plan or 5-year plan, scaling like our own solopreneur business or
it can be super exciting in year one, can't it? And at the start, and a lot of people associate followers with success and turnover or revenue or sales, all interchangeable words. But the more turnover you make, the more successful you are as a business. And I have a 10k a month business, and all of a sudden when you say that, it's like, oh yeah, you see people shout about it. But going back to I started talking about a 10k business and thinking about tax and what you're left with and whatnot. My example was like a best case scenario almost. So you get a lot of people saying, oh, I've got a 10k a month business and this is how I'm doing that. And there's a lot of courses that people sell as to how they achieve that. But I imagine that's not the full picture. So you could have a 10k a month business, sure. And my example in terms of what's left over after tax is probably around 7k. So yeah, that could sound really good. Realistically, you're probably a 10k a month business, but you might spend $5,000 to earn that 10k, right? So you've had to spend something to earn the money that you've earned, but then you've got overhead costs. You might pay rent somewhere. All of a sudden you've got a $5,000 profit. Take home after tax might be $3,000, or you might have a 10 grand a month business, but you're growing way too quick. There's no margins. You're not really thinking about it. You just sell, just work. No cost control or anything like that. You might spend $9,000 a month. Now you're left with $1,000. Now your take home's like £700 a month. So which one is it? They're all 10k a month businesses. They're all, it's just the turnover game, isn't it? That followers, they're very much the same. You can think of it the same way. On the turnover side of things, I like to speak to clients and talk about, what take home page you want, and kind of reverse engineer it and go like, well, to get that, how much in the way of sales do you need? And that's like a good starting point. Followers, it's hard to put that as a target, I guess. If you have an engagement rate in mind, as long as you're engaging and getting followed by the people that are your target market, maybe you can expect leads to increase if you're a service provider. Yeah, as long as you're getting the followers that are likely to engage with you. Like I go on LinkedIn every morning and search MD, owner, founder, and I connect with those people because they're likely to be my, potential client. But if I'm getting followed by whoever, just random people.
Like me.
No. But I don't know, just random people, maybe people that aren't business owners.
Yeah. Like your neighbor or
your
friends.
Yeah.
How likely are they to purchase from you? Yeah.
Well, that's very nice. It's a vanity metric, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you can
chasing
see
the wrong thing.
Yeah, you can see it as success, but someone might have 1,000 followers compared to someone who's got 50,000 followers, but that 1,000 followers might be a massive community of people where they're all just buzzing and everyone's engaging with each other's content, and it goes back to the whole social media thing on that side of thing with the followers, doesn't it? But turnover, I think, is sorted when in terms of separating ego from financial goals. It's like, okay, well, why did you start this business? Well, you wanted to be paid X amount. So, okay, well, what do you want to be paid? Well, let's work that back. What are your costs? Therefore, how much you have to sell, and start from there.
Yeah.
The followers, it's like, it's a whole different world, isn't it? I'm only really dabbling now in the whole LinkedIn side, trying to show up more.
Yeah.
It's a wild world.
Yeah, I think with the followers and social media, it helps with credibility and to spread your message more.
Yeah.
But the people who follow you want free things most of the time. So it's a disillusion. Like people have said to me as well, like, oh, you have like 15K followers here and 35 here. Like, and then they just presume. But it's like, not everyone is logging into like Instagram or TikTok, like, I'm going to buy off Daisy today. I'm going to buy off Sam today. You know, like that's just not how people think.
Yeah.
Whilst actually what you're doing, which is like, you are like bringing those other people into your network, you know, like the MDs, like people with power, decision making and money and budgets, like having a mixture of your followers for building credibility and community and those with decision making power and money, let's say. It's really important to have a mixture because you don't want just to be transactional and just have people following
you.
you.
Got to enjoy the process, haven't
Exactly.
you? Like engage with people whose content you really like.
Yeah. That inspires you as well.
Yeah, I've always got more from engaging rather than creating content as well. So if you are followed by or follow like a bunch of people who you really like their stuff and you just start a conversation, so much has come off the back of it. I don't know whether we'd be talking today unless like I'd had a conversation with someone who knows someone who knows someone who you know that person.
Yeah.
And here we are. So I'm really, really grateful for that interaction. So much could come from just just showing up, I suppose.
Absolutely. And I want to talk to you as well about this graph that's kind of going around where they were assessing what's the perfect salary that people would be happy with. And apparently it was 70K a year, right? Which doesn't sound like a lot.
Yeah.
Like I think about that and I'm like, it's good, but like I think $1 million would be nice. Well, imagine if you have $1 million in your bank account, you'd be like, okay, that's a good day. But why? Do you know why it's 70K? Like, how did they come up with that?
It was a study that it was a university in the States that kind of threw it together. But the principle behind it, I think, is around that stress that you have from not being able to meet the sort of bare requirements, right? So I think people that say money can buy happiness have probably experienced real stress at some point, financial stress from not even living paycheck to paycheck, but going that one step further of finding yourself in the month not being able to afford something and just being like, man, if I just earned X, like I'd be so much happier. And
the problems would go away.
They would be so much happier. So I think as soon as you get past that point where you can comfortably afford the sort of bare essentials like your rent each month and food, and you've still got a bit left over to do stuff socially, I think that unlocks like a real level of happiness that someone who just earns maybe half of that just doesn't have at all. They really don't have it, or they've got, they find themselves in a real hole because they can't afford to do stuff that their friends can do, and they just find themselves slipping out of social circles and stuff. So I think it's around that, really. Sure, like someone who earns 200K rather than 70K, are they going to be happier? Yeah, probably. Someone who earns $1 million, are they going to be happier than the person on 200? Maybe. But I think you're talking about different things. I think your day-to-day emotional peace probably hits a point at some point. But then a lot of people, these people who are super successful and can earn 200K, $1 million, you're talking about a different kind of happiness, I think, then. And you're thinking more around purpose and how you feel towards yourself, and those are incredible achievements. And that you're talking about purpose more then, and self-credibility and feeling really proud for building something. So it goes into sort of life fulfillment as opposed to just meeting the basic day-to-day needs and doing things with the people that you want to do and not worry about money. But yeah, when you're earning that amount of money, unless you're living some crazy materialistic lifestyle and just maybe living beyond your means, I think more than it's around purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. And maybe that can unlock a different kind of happiness. But that initial jump from pure panic that you might find yourself in from not being able to afford a basic need to like, I'm okay now and I'm earning a really good amount of money. Like, I think it's there. The jumps are there in happiness, but I don't think they're anywhere near as big as that first jump.
Yeah, I think with the 70K, it's, if you put it into context, it's almost like you're grateful for what you have.
Sure.
Right? So I'm getting a bit spiritual here, but it's like you're grateful for what you have and you're not buying a yacht on the weekend or going on holiday in the weekend or buying a freaking Rolex, you know? Like you're not being materialistic and thinking like happiness is external, right? Because you've met your needs and you can go and socialize and you have some leeway to do some things, but you're not like going over the top. Because I have had like a millionaire on my podcast. I have spoken to billionaires. I've spoken to famous people. I've spoken to high profile people, influencers, people with money, and they're all fucking miserable. Yeah. They're all miserable. Trust me, business owners and stuff like that.
You say all of them?
Pretty much all of them. Yeah. They're just chasing the wrong thing and they just are in this weird loop of like, not enough.
You know what? I get it because when I said around my purpose, and now I kind of think of it more as helping people and getting gratification that way. Yeah. My mindset before was like, I've got to get to X point by this time, by that point, because I need to do this and I need to do that.
Yeah.
And I've got this scenario in my head, and I used to think this would be happiness. And I went to New York years ago now, and I felt really guilty for going at first because I knew it's somewhere where my mum's always wanted to go. So I had this initial guilt. But then I remember the first night we went to this steak place, and I remember opening the menu for this steak place, proper popular place, and I was looking at the prices going like, what? Like, this is mad expensive, and I felt like I couldn't have what I wanted, and it made me feel so small. And I felt quite embarrassed, like asking for what was obviously the cheapest thing on the menu to just be in the environment. And I've always had this image in my head of I would love to be in a position, all from my career, where I'm earning enough money or I'm stable enough where I can take my family to New York and go back to the same restaurant and just be able to go, you know what, guys, just have whatever you want. And for whatever reason, I've thought, you know what, that would be a moment where I'd feel really happy. But it sounds quite materialistic as a thought, and that's what I've rocked my head with the last few months, being like, you know what, is that what my mum would value from me, or would she just rather spend quality time with me? Probably the latter, hey. So I'm trying to think about more ways where I can be more present with the people that are really important to me, actually, rather than thinking what would they want from me in terms of materialistic stuff. Because I think that's when you can get into the loop of like, that's not enough, I want more. Like, because say you take your family to New York, you go to this restaurant, what then? There'll be something else that sounds way better than that. And
yeah, that's not the end, is it? You go there and you're like, I'm happy now forever.
Yeah. It's like what people refer to as like the rat race, isn't it? In terms of being in employment, like you get a promotion, you get the next house up, and then the next house up, and all of a sudden you're in a, I don't know, 6-7 bedroom house, and there's only 2 of you, and like, you know, for what? What's it all for, really?
Yeah. It's just you're outsourcing your happiness.
Yeah.
You literally are. You think that the paycheck is or the amount on your bank account is gonna make you happy, or that restaurant in New York is gonna make you happy, or owning a villa in Spain is gonna make you happy, you know? And then that's just you outsourcing it instead of actually just being in the now. You know, investing your time and money, which are such precious resources in your life, right? In the correct way. Like you said, like your mum probably just wants to see you. It doesn't even matter about where it is, if it's in the restaurant in New York, etc. It's like she just wants to be around you. You know, that's where like satisfaction, happiness is. It's not necessarily being grand and a big gesture and flying her out. So it's interesting how you see
I listened to a podcast the other day, and
was it mine?
It was someone talking about happiness, you know, and I actually think it was a diary of a CEO, and I can't remember the name of the episode. And it was just a clip from it, and I found it really interesting. And it's going off on a tangent. I'm definitely not an expert in the subject, but he asked the guy whether he was happy, and he was like, well, what do you mean by happy? He threw the question back to him, and he was like, if he basically related happiness to peace, and actually what he was chasing was like a more peaceful life. So his day-to-day emotions aren't fluctuating, because he referred to happiness as like, if you find yourself in a moment where you're happy, well, you can be sad as well, like, because what goes up can come down, kind of thing. So just living a life that's actually more peaceful is something that's more important to him. And then he was asked the question, well, do you feel at peace? And he was like, every day more and more. Yeah. So I think it kind of links him with that. People should maybe not chase the things that aren't really important if they took a step back, and what would a more peaceful, purposeful life mean to them. Sounds deep as anything, doesn't it? But yeah, it's all interesting stuff.
Apparently it's a 70k salary. That's the peaceful medium.
Maybe that's when peace starts. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, after that.
You don't need more, you don't need less. I also want to talk about just one last thing. If, for example, a listener is like kind of tuning in and they're like, but I'm still so bad with money. Like, I understand everything you've said today. Yeah. Logically, I understand that I need to budget. I understand that I can't just go and start a business to make money, etc. But I'm just bad with money. So what shift do I need to make in my mindset in order to change this? Because I can't live like this, just thinking I'm bad with money and that's my future. That's my destiny.
I think get rid of the word bad from for the start of it. I think it's just negative talk, isn't it? And there's loads of things in life where you could just flip how you talk about it and just speak a little bit more positively. So I think of the whole I'm bad with money thing, well, the same as before you know how to drive, like, you're bad at driving, right? So
true.
You haven't so you haven't tried, is what I'm saying. So people who are bad at money, I think they haven't given it enough effort maybe to educate themselves on the things that are out there. So you can associate yourself at being bad with money because you don't have that clarity. So that's like a blocker for you then. The whole, I think I've said this as a quote to you before, but I think when people think they lack motivation, it's not motivation they lack, but clarity. So when you know what the end result is, you have that motivation, and that's your accountability for doing it, because you're like, oh, that sounds really good. Like, yeah, I'll do this because that's going to lead to that. When people don't have that, it's like, well, what am I don't know what to do. Like, how do I? Yeah. So think of it as like, rather than I am bad with money, be like, I'm learning to be better with money step by step. Yeah. So I recognise that you've got room to learn more. There's always room to learn more. Don't say you're bad. Yeah, because you were bad at driving once before you started to drive. So yeah, back yourself more.
Yeah, so you're learning. And I love that quote. Sure. The fact that that's so true with anything in life. Like, if you don't have the clarity, of course, what are you motivated for, essentially? That's actually really true.
I think about studies. Back when I was doing my A-levels, as I say, I did biology, chemistry, physics and Spanish. I did so bad, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no idea. If I knew I wanted to be a doctor and I knew I had to get X grades to be able to go to uni, to be able to do that degree, maybe I'd have had that clarity, because I know I've got to do this, because then that's going to lead to that, which is going to lead to that. That'd be my driver. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I had no clue. But as soon as I started studying my accounting stuff, then you're like, well, okay, well, this is pretty cool. Like, I'm liking this route. And when you're in the thick of it and you're studying normally, each exam pass means a promotion or a pay rise or something. You're like, well, okay, well, that's your clarity then. That's how you get to that next stage in your career, because you have that clarity. Therefore, you see the benefit to yourself. Therefore, you put the time in. So yeah, you can link it to a lot of stuff, I think just having a clearer vision is all the motivation you need if you want to better yourself.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be like, be a millionaire. It can be like, get out of debt, pay my student loan, make my first 10k month, something like this. It doesn't have to be like this crazy, ridiculous goal that you don't think you're going to hit.
Sometimes this is going back to the growing a business side of things. Sometimes you don't even need to think financially, right? Something I like to do with businesses is something called a profit driver tree. And you start with profit, over it, you like kind of branch off and like, okay, well, what drives profit? Sales and margins. What drives sales? Okay, number of customers. Okay, what drives number of customers? And then you kind of you keep going along, and eventually you come up with a load of words or phrases that don't mean profit, but ultimately they're driving that. So I found a bit of a niche for working with hospitality businesses and restaurants, and this exercise works really, really well. The kind of things that you're talking about on the far right hand side are like number of repeat customers, food wastage, net promoter score, stuff like that. All that stuff doesn't mean profit, but you can, even if you, and what I'm basically saying is if you don't have to pick a financial goal to drive your business forward. You can pick something that can be fun and non-financial, but ultimately it's driving profit, which is ultimately going to grow your business. You can look at it that way.
It sounds so much more fun. I'm going to do it tonight, just like a spider diagram.
Profit driver tree, yeah.
Is there, Sam, is there anything that we've missed so far in this episode that's really important to address or tell the audience?
We've covered a lot, hey. I just think be kinder to yourself, like back yourself more. Speak to family and friends about it. Like if I think about my experiences, the sort of bad decisions I've made when I've said to myself that I'm bad at money, I think I just found myself in a bit of a hole of talking to the wrong people rather than the right people.
It's also embarrassing sometimes.
Can be, yeah.
It's like a taboo.
I made some bad decisions. I tried drop shipping when I was really young, and all of a sudden I was earning money every month, and then that money that I was earning I was invested in crypto, and because that was the cool thing to talk about, and everyone was sort of going on about it, and that to me was the right thing to do, and I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make so much money, and all of a sudden I got myself in some real problems, and just from being in that situation you learn so much from it. So I think just reach out to the right people, and I think going back to that experience where I thought I was going to be really rich all of a sudden, I think if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So bear that in mind as well in business with the people that approach you throughout your life as an entrepreneur. Something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Take a step back and have another think about it.
I'll counter that. The only thing, because I've seen the crypto share and the dropshipping share and stuff. The only thing that is too good to be true, I think, is like brand deals and stuff, especially if you've got a following. I really thought that was a scam. But then now been doing it for like a year or so, I'm like, it's legit. Like people do have marketing budgets and they're willing to invest in like individuals and stuff just to like
some good
post something.
With
for sure. Yeah, that's one of the things.
That's really cool.
I think one of the only things I think that has like proven me wrong, because even when you get that inbound, you're like, oh my God, is that fake? Like
your experience then, like as someone who has recently started their business, and you had that perception of like brand deals being a bit of like
a great area.
How quickly from starting to being exposed to that environment was that process like? So how quickly all of a sudden was like, actually no, this is real, this exists?
I actually I love that we've like flipped. You're asking me questions.
It's interesting.
Is this for your own research as well? No, I got brand deals when I was still in corporate, actually, just for the following. So if you want to build something, I would recommend to build followers, because that is the quickest way. And you can also live like this, right, where it's like you can make a post as you usually do, and then a company will sponsor it for £500 or €500 or $500, right? Easy money, quick money. And my first experience was actually when I was in corporate, and then a company reached out, and I was like, nah, this is too good. Who the fuck would just throw money at me? And then when they actually paid after I made the invoice and stuff, I was like, okay, this is real. And then they kept coming in, and you can be selective. You don't just accept everyone, right? You're not just going to post for every Dom, Dick and Charlie, right? So you can be a bit more selective to what's like truly aligned with your like message and everything, your social media presence.
I've heard a few people say that. Like, I guess when you have the luxury of being able to say no as well, like it's super empowering, right? Yeah. So saying no to the things that don't align with what you're all about. Yeah, it's
But
cool.
ego does come in the way, and you do think like, if I took 10 of these, I'd have a very good month.
So you
but
took
then
9.
I'd lose a lot of followers because you'd be
Sure.
ego chasing and disingenuine. So yeah, that's also, you really have to be careful. And like, I really appreciated you coming today, because money for me is one of these topics that's like very, I only got comfortable with it recently, actually, like especially like talking to an investor and being like, hey, I need this from you, and like I need, I need this and this, and I'm going to budget allocate here. It was really tough. And coming from a place where I grew up poor, essentially in Italy, it's a poor country, and I was in this lack, and then I moved to the UK, and then I got work, and you see money in your bank account and you're just like, I'm gonna spend that on the weekend. Fuck rent. So I honestly, and also with ADHD and stuff, I'm very spontaneous. So I'm sure a lot of people relate to this, that it's really important to cover topics like this on my podcast as well, not just for my own interest, to keep learning and understanding and being kinder to ourselves as well, and not treating it like a taboo, and actually reaching out for help and support, because that's helped me as well. But for the other people who are, in their bedrooms, or they're shy and listening to this at the gym or whatever, and they're just like, ooh, I don't want to talk about money to like my parents or my friends
I'm going to go back
or anyone.
to something that you just said, because again, I'm really interested in it. So the ADHD side of it, how do you see that for yourself? Do you see it as a bit of a superpower, or do you think it hinders you somewhat?
With money?
With business,
With
and just,
business.
because I think of myself and how my brain works, and
Do you have ADHD?
undiagnosed, but I'm
Undiagnosed.
convinced like my brain is loud.
Yeah.
But sometimes I find myself like, again, if I just have like this moment of clarity on something, I just get hyper focused for a little bit, and it's just mad. I can be mad productive. But I've seen so many stats around like people with diagnosed ADHD are more likely to be business owners and stuff like that, and I find it quite interesting just talking about it.
Well, you've answered it. You
Very
get
much
clarity and you hyper focus.
Yeah.
That's all we need to do, right?
Yeah.
And we're shit with money.
You're learning step by step.
We're learning. Yeah, we're not shit with money. We're not bad with money.
No,
we're learning.
Yeah.
Sam, this was amazing. Thank you so much.
Really enjoyed it.
Where can I find you if I want more help from you or content to educate me and help me with my financial literacy?
So I'm posting more and more on LinkedIn. So I'd say connect with me on LinkedIn, Sam Enos Millward. And I'll be doing more on personal finance, things that business owners typically encounter, common questions that I get asked as an accountant, business advisor. It'll be there. So I just want to start as many conversations as possible. But yeah, there's no stupid question. People reach out to me, and let's have a chat.
Yeah, this is not going to be the end.
Yeah. I hope not.
Yeah, I'm just going to slide in your DMs even more. But thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. Pleasure.